What's happening, guys? Welcome to day 2. So if you've watched this far, you'll have seen how far I got to yesterday trying to get that Vanos off. Basically my Vanos is loose, but because we've literally only got like 4 or 5 centimeters of clearance there between that and this panel, I can't pull it far enough to slide it off those studs down there. So done a bit of reading. I've got a few options. One of them is to cut a bit off those studs, which I'm not massively keen on. Another one is to kind of pull it out and then get some mole grips down there and pull the studs out with the mole grips. Obviously I'm going to destroy the thread in the middle of the stud. I don't really want to do that either because that's also a bit destructive. Another option is to remove these bolts from this panel and get a pry bar and pry against the center of the water pump pulley, which I'm not particularly fond of either, to be honest, because even if it's only a couple of mil that I need to get it past, I'm going to be deforming this panel, and also I'm going to be putting a load of pressure on the water pulley, even though I'm replacing that anyway. So apparently to do the water pump, I've got to remove the engine mounts anyway and jack the engine up and down and stuff, so that's what I'm going to be doing. Should be alright. That could work. Okay. Thank God for impact wrenches, eh? Okay, there's 2. Now, I guess I want to jack the engine up. Actually, okay, so jacking that up, I can see it's clearly lifted that off that engine mount. It hasn't really done much for that one. I think it's probably just the way that I'm jacking the sump up, the angle that I'm jacking it at. So I'm going to go ahead, take that engine mount out, and I'm hoping that just pivoting off that engine mount, I should be able to get the clearance that I need to get that Vanos off, hopefully. So that looks like if I take the nut out at the bottom of that engine mount, I should be able to wriggle it out, and then I should be able to drop the engine right down and get some more clearance. Let's have a go. Okay, there we go. One engine mount. I should be able to drop the engine. Gently does it. Alright, that's pretty much as low as I'm going to get it, I think. Alright, pray for me. Oh my word, yeah. Yeah, well that worked a treat. Vanos out, whoops. Oh yes, I got the Vanos out. Yes. Without destroying anything. Cool, right, okay, next job. Let's get this Vanos rebuilt. Seriously though, all you guys on the Z4 forums, with your pry bars and your hacksaws, literally just take that engine mount out, jack it up a bit, take it out, drop it down, you get the clearance you need. Simple. It was actually so easy. I can't believe it. I was expecting that to be a nightmare. Well, now that I've got that engine mount out as well, it should be easier to get the water pump out. I'm going to do the Vanos first though, then worry about the water pump. Now I don't have a workbench. What I do have is an old pallet, a couple of trestles, and a bit of old OSB board. Exhaust side, which has a spring in it. Intake side, which doesn't have a spring in it. Okay, so let's open her up. Now there are loads of other videos out there that show this process in a lot more detail, performed by people with a lot more experience and skill than me, so I'm not going to bother going into loads of detail with this. I'm just going to time lapse it and you guys can just enjoy the ride. Now when I finally got to the pistons inside the Vanos unit, there was actually quite a lot of play in there. I could wiggle the pistons around quite easily inside the cylinder. And that bodes well for the potential performance improvement I'm going to see when I replace the seals. Now it's just a case of removing the old seals from the pistons. Just do this with a sharp knife, really carefully, cut through them and carefully peel them out. It would be really easy to damage the pistons when you're doing this, so just use caution. Now here's a good tip for you. If you are doing this job and you're also replacing the anti-rattle rings, don't make the mistake that I make here and put the new seals onto the Vanos pistons before you've done the anti-rattle rings. I made that mistake. It just meant that I had to be super careful when I was actually opening up the pistons to take the anti-rattle rings from inside out. If I'd just read the instructions properly, I wouldn't have made that mistake. Now I think BMW actually sells some little rubber pieces that go into your vise so that you don't damage the pistons. I didn't buy those. Fortunately, I had a few pieces of EPDM rubber left over from when I did my garden room roof, and I think that in my woodworker's vise is soft enough not to damage the metal. Or indeed the new Vanos seals that I shouldn't have put on yet. Now that I've got the pistons dismantled and all the anti-rattle rings out, it's just a case of cleaning up the inside of the pistons with some brake cleaner and reassembling everything with the new anti-rattle rings. So there are no torque specs that I could find to do that main bolt back up in the piston. The general consensus is just to give it 2 or 3 ugga-duggers and you'll be alright. So that's one side of the Vanos done. I'm not going to bore you with the other side because it's exactly the same process, so let's move on. So it's 10 newton meters I want to torque this up to. 9, 10. And the last thing to do is just give it a really good clean up. Next, I need to sort the rocker cover gasket out, which was a nightmare, which you'll see in a sec. I can't believe how hard this seal has gone. This is absolutely ridiculous, like the state of these. It's a real pain. This is a real pain in the arse, to be honest. I'm not going to bother filming the rest of this, I don't think, just because it's like, I don't even know how I'm going to get it out. I think the best advice I can give you here in terms of getting that gasket out is just take your time. I got myself a beer and just proceeded with extreme caution. Just be careful because the valve cover is going to be brittle and I was really scared of breaking that, but got there eventually. I've got them all out. Getting these out of these spark plug holes was nightmare material, and they have turned actually into nightmare material. Look at the state of it. Utterly shocking. They are just like hard, brittle plastic things. They'll have been on there for the life of the car. Managed not to break the valve cover, so I'm just going to give the inside of it a good blast, get it all nice and cleaned up and ready for the new seals. Right, and I think once again I'm going to have to call it a day there. Pretty productive for just a session after work. Vanos off, got it rebuilt. Managed to get that gasket off even though it was an absolute nightmare. Yet another job that's running into a few days, but I think it was always going to. There was no way I was going to get all this engine overhaul done in like one day, so I'm going to get everything packed up and tomorrow's a new day. So thanks for watching so far and I will see you tomorrow.